This is Nick Apostolides, and you're listening to the Extraction Point Podcast.
Extraction Point.
Now that we're a few months out from the initial release, Nick Apostolides is joining us today to talk about his experience with making Resident Evil 2 and how it's been since the months it's been released. So Nick, thanks for joining us today. Just a little bit about you. Give us a little backstory on you. How a little bit about your history growing up. Love for the series. How'd you get into voice acting? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, that is open-ended. What's up, everybody? Just happy to be here. I could talk about that for probably about 6 months. Let's see. Starting back when I was a kid, I have always been a fan of video games. When I was about maybe 6 years old, my aunt bought me an NES, and I started playing Mario. And ever since then, it just never stopped. So let's see. I graduated to Super Nintendo when I got a little older. And then, of course, PS1 came out. And it's when I started with PS1, that's when I heard of Resident Evil, right around 96. And ever since I played the second one, which is I slept over at Buddy's house, and he let me play this zombie game, and I fell in love with it that night. And then my love affair has been there ever since. My background as an actor, let's see. These are big questions, and they're going to be big answers. I first started my career in hospitality, and I was always around people. I was working in like Disney World and hotels, and I had a lot of guest service managers over the years, and a lot of people in that industry telling me that I should try acting. And they said, when you speak about anything that you're doing, when you speak to us, you have very honest eyes, and you come off as very genuine, and you should maybe try out acting. And when I heard that a bunch of times, I said, okay. So I started auditioning for like smaller student films in the Boston area, which has a small but really supportive, tight-knit film community. I started doing well, and it was really fun, and I took a dive 1 year. I wanted to go full steam ahead, and so I just up and quit my awesome job on a big, huge gamble to try acting, and here I am many, many, many years later.
We're definitely thankful you took the leap. Resident Evil 2 being a smash success, a great way to ring into 2019.
It's quite a nice segue, to be honest, Nick. So, how did obviously you had small beginnings? You were doing your shorts. You probably starred in a few feature films. What made Capcom get in touch with you specifically regarding Resident Evil 2, regarding Leon? I mean, talk us through it. What was the process behind that?
Well, the process was no different than any other project I usually get involved in. I just saw a casting call online, just like any other short film or feature or project commercial. There was a casting that went up, and it said Resident Evil 2. They're looking for this character called Leon, and I'm looking at it, and I knew that Resident Evil 2 had already come out many, many years ago, and right away I thought it might be like a fan film or a student project or like an homage project. So whatever it was, I thought it was really cool, and I submitted anyways. And I explained in the submission notes that I'm a huge fan and I would love to read for this character, and I really understand him. And then about a week later, I actually got the audition notice saying that they wanted me to come in. And I looked a little further, I dug deeper, and I realized that it was casting for the actual remake of the game from 98, and it was the actual character with motion capture and the voice, and my heart just dropped because the severity of this audition and the importance of it really hit me at that point. So I kind of freaked out a little bit. So Capcom didn't look for me. I submitted. They thought I might be a good fit, and then I was probably considered with maybe, 60 to 70 other people. So I lucked out because I was chosen to audition among maybe 3 to 5,000 submissions in LA. Oh, I really lucked out. This casting director, Mari Uda, I'll never forget her as long as I live, because she was one of the ones that helped me make that first cut. And I really just lucked out and then just did what I had to do to get the part.
How intense was it knowing that you were going to be the man? Like, talk about giving you the ball and running with it. How intense was it knowing that you were going to be the man, Leon S. Kennedy?
Well, there was an avalanche of emotions and thoughts going on in my head and in my heart. Obviously, the franchise meant everything to me. To possibly be a part of this series was blowing my mind. It made me a little nervous going into the auditions, because I usually put a lot of pressure on myself with these things, but this one took the cake. I mean, this is one of those projects where I could die happy knowing I was in this game. Then there was this energy that pulsed through my body. Like, I felt like Bruce Banner for a sec. I felt like the Hulk was just injected into my body. And then the nerves came in, and I was thinking about the different voice actors and the pressure that was going to come along with this role. I just wanted to do him justice, because I grew up playing all of the other Resident Evils with Leon, and the voice actors were phenomenal. That's why people fell in love with Leon, was not because of my voice. They fell in love 10, 15, 20 years ago. And that's where the pressure stemmed from. Is I have a tendency to sometimes compare yourself to others, but it's just I had big shoes to fill, hands down, because of the talent that was already present in his universe. So I just tried to stay calm and poised and trust Capcom that they chose the right guy for this particular game and this particular rendition of him. And I think people, for the most part, have been happy. It's been received well, and that's all I can ever ask for.
I've been kind of on the other side of the fence with regard to direct. Like, I was a short director,
Oh yeah.
so I was on the other
cool.
side. I was on the other side of the fence. So I'd put casting calls out, get actors in on student films. So it's interesting seeing how you've kind of paid your dues, done the freebies.
Oh yeah, you have to pay your dues.
Yeah.
And you know what though? I got a huge respect for all kinds of film at any budget level, even the small stuff, even to this day. And it's because that's where I started. And I would be nowhere without the first, dozen or 2 dozen directors that gave me a chance on small projects to develop my skills and make my mistakes and everything. That's where you learn. And I would not have gotten this role if I didn't have all the experience that I collected over the years. Like, even my gun training, my military training from my friend James, all the dramatic stuff. Like, it was a combo of everything I'd ever learned, and I injected it right into this character. And that's why, like, good for you for doing short films. Like, I will always respect that art form.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, we all have to. It's that old saying. It's the old adage. We all start somewhere, and it doesn't matter it doesn't matter where you go. You all started at that kind of the shorts. Building the initial portfolio up.
Exactly.
Doing things on the free. Trying to borrow resources. I remember it was one of the most hectic things in the world, putting together a short, because to me, I wanted to give the actors justice. I wanted to get the best out of them, and obviously they wanted direction. As much as I like to try and give the people the ball and they run with it, I give them the outline. The big thing for them was they need feedback. They need feedback. You can't be a better actor by someone going, yeah, you did really well on that. That does nothing for you. I suppose with your voice act, that's a very good point, actually. Voice acting and actual acting. How did you take the transition?
I'm not sure I felt a huge transition, and there's a reason for it. When you're doing all your film stuff, you're playing a lot of different types of characters, and all along you are exercising those muscles about voice delivery, inflection, energy, enunciation. I also had a lot of experience in the commercial world, and the commercial world is completely different from the film world because in the film world, normally they want real life characters, real people, and sometimes in the commercial world, you get to sound a bit more, whether it's like a spokesman or just a down to earth, like walk and talk guy. It's through that experience as well, with all my hosting, where you're really working out the voice because sometimes you wouldn't even be on camera and you have to talk about this product and come off as really genuine or come off as the guy next door or the trustworthy father who's telling you to buy this brand of diapers, So
Yeah.
I was just, you're just practicing it and expanding your craft and your toolbox all along. And a lot of what we filmed for RE2, I would say the majority of what we filmed were the cinematic breakaways with motion capture, and we recorded the voice at the exact same time. So they were capturing our whole performance, body, facial expressions, voice, and we acted them out like theater scenes. Then we had separate ADR, just straight VO sessions all throughout filming for 3 years. And that's when you really have to get a little bit more creative. That's when the player is controlling the character in game, and he'll be shooting a zombie, and Leon will say something like "shit" or "Jesus Christ." That's all kind of manufactured, but you still have to be quite physical in the recording booth because a lot of these things, when he's getting smashed by Tyrant, or the effort grunts of getting up after he's been pushed down, that's very physical stuff. So I'm not standing still doing that in front of a mic. I'm kind of going through the motions and giving those sounds like ugh, and it puts a toll on your body. So I would say that stuff was closer to the film side of what I do than my commercial VO side for sure.
No, that's brilliant, and it. I suppose in a way there isn't really a lot different, because in your mind, getting into the mind of the character, you're still you become Leon. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're looking a man in the eye acting, or you're in a mocap area, or you're just doing ADR VOs. You've become that character, and I suppose it's just up to you to really smash it home.
Oh, I forced myself to because I knew what this game was going to mean to Resident Evil fans, and I also knew what it meant to me. Every single day I showed up, I just wanted to give everything I had to this game because I wanted it to live in infamy as just like one of the classics of the new age because I grew up with the older ones. And I remember playing 1, 2, 3, 4, all those titles. They meant so much to me. And that's because of everything. It was because of the game design, the voice actors, the scare factor of the horror survival. And I just wanted to contribute to that special universe as best as I could. And so I focused more on this project than any other project I've ever been a part of, for sure.
But I suppose another question I was always interested, because obviously filming myself, like directing and stuff like that, you don't direct stuff, beginning to end. You don't go, right, scene one is going to be the entry. You got to play the hand you're dealt. You're not always going to have your actors there at any given time. It's all out of order, and then your editor puts it together. So for you when they brought you over to do your VOs and your voice acting, was you starting to like piece the game story together, and you was like, I've just done the ending, like now I know what happens at the end, and now I've done a key part of the game, but I don't even know where we start yet. What was that like?
I think the only thing that I tried to be very weary of and conscious of was his character's arc. And wherever that arc was in the scene that we were filming in the story, I had to be conscious of it because they were adamant. They wanted to show a big evolving part of Leon. So at the beginning of the story, he's kind of this like fresh, wide-eyed rookie, little naive, and then towards the end of the story, he grows into a more mature person who understood what he had to do, and they needed to see that transition kind of in his attitude and his energy in relationship with the characters, especially Ada. And I think I just tried to be aware of the arc and where it lied in those scenes.
And you finally managed to actually. I'll take it by now. You've probably managed to complete the game.
Yeah, I had my first playthrough, believe it or not, about a week and a half ago. It was the first time I was able to get home to Boston to be with my little brother, my older brother, and my cousin, and we all sat and played it together, and we had the best time. And that only happens every few years when an RE game comes out. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a special day.
Did you find yourself like at certain? You must have done just certain parts of the game when you, for example, when Tyrant shows up. Did you find yourself, you're playing with your cousins and your brothers, and you're like, "Holy shit!" Like, did you find yourself saying that? Was you mouthing words? He was like, "I know this part."
You know what's really funny is that there were points in the game where my thoughts in real time, I would say them, and then my character Leon would say them right after. And that's the reason for that is because the director would always ask, in this situation, if this happened in real life, what would you say? What would Nick say? And I would just think off the top of my head and be like, I don't know, I'd probably say something like, Jesus Christ. And so that happened more than once, and it was really funny. It was awesome seeing all of my hard work kind of go into that. I mean, we all worked hard. The writer was amazing, the director was amazing, the team from Japan was amazing, my whole cast, I love them all. It's just really awesome to see an experience from that side of it.
No, I definitely agree that the Jesus, was it Jesus? Yeah, it was Jesus Christ. Yeah. So you this is just after you've turned the water supply off. The fire's been put out. You go and the tyrant pushes the helicopter out of the way. Now, for me, growing up as an old school Resident Evil fan, I didn't expect to see the tyrant in scenario A. I was already preconditioned that it was a scenario. It was a second playthrough experience.
Yes, exactly.
So seeing Tyrant, I think I can speak for everyone that we all had exactly the same reaction as what Leon said. Like, oh Jesus Christ! Like,
Yeah, you're not supposed to be here. It's like, holy shit.
Really appreciate that insight, Nick. I mean, I suppose for yourself being part of such a massive production, that must be like. I bet you must have been pinching yourself and being like, "Is this real? Is this happening?"
I'm still pinching myself 3 years later. I have so many bruises. It's crazy. It's just crazy what it's been like. Just knowing that I'll die having been a part of the Resident Evil universe. I must have told the team from Japan maybe 2,000 times that it was the biggest honor of my life, and I'm quite sure they got very sick of hearing it. But I couldn't say it enough because it's just so true.
Yeah, you got to shoot your shot, haven't you? You got to take it as it comes. No, that's great stuff, man, and it's good to see as well. Like, you appreciate the opportunity. You'll appreciate the magnitude of opportunity, and I suppose for yourself, where Resident Evil is quite a die-hard community. Like, it's not like I wouldn't call Resident Evil like a casual. It's not. It's a very. I mean, Resident Evil 2 is a remake, was a massive release, and
Yes.
it did have massive crossover value, as you probably have picked up. Resident Evil at its core is a very hardcore base, so you probably quadrupled your follower base overnight, I would imagine. Once they found out, it was Nick Apostolides is doing Leon, and you must have had constant fan mail and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, it was quite a big rush, especially right at the beginning. But now I'm just having fun. Like, if that comes over time, that's great. It's a byproduct of it. It's a bonus. But I think the fun thing for me now that the game is out is, of course, enjoying the game, sharing it with friends and family, and also trying to connect with the fan community. because I'm having such a good time with it because I'm a fan. And that's why I try to give time whenever I can to outlets like you guys, podcast interviews, appearances. I'm super excited to be starting with the convention circuit. So my first major one is going to be over in Europe, and then in Ireland. Um, and so we're really excited to travel now and just see different types of fans, different types of communities, and just connect with you all because it's just gonna be fun.
Yeah, and I think this is, Nick, like you're in an interesting position because it's not often like a fan gets called up to the big leagues. This is like, this is like the guy who never misses the Dodgers game, getting called, stand on the pitcher's mound and, throw the
Exactly.
game, So it's, and I think it shows. I think uh, Capcom going with a uh, lesser known actor for this, like and somebody that knew the series, knew the lore, knew the franchise. I think it really shows in the production and then the final product. Look at some of other video game adaptations or sequels or movie releases, and you can tell like in a lot of those the actors they just don't get the franchise.
That happens with anything else, and I think it does make a difference. I hope that came through in the performance. And when I was still being considered for being cast, I made damn sure that I emailed them and told them exactly what the franchise meant to me and how well I understood it. I just wanted them to know that and put everything on the table just in case it made a difference. And apparently I think it did.
Oh, I would say it absolutely did. Like I said, and maybe we can transition this into a little bit of your character developmental process because, like you said earlier, playing the role of Leon is had big shoes to fill. Between the Pauls and Mercier that came before you. Walk us through a little bit of your character development process. Did you talk with the other Leons? I'm assuming you did a lot of studying on how their portrayals, and obviously brought a little bit of your own flavor to it. But walk us through that process a little.
Well, I didn't reach out to the other voice actors. First of all, I thought that might be a little strange to try to reach out to them and say, "Hey, I'm the new guy who's replacing you. Give me advice." I'm sure they'd be generous with their time and their advice and insights, but I didn't do that simply because I knew the other games so well. I didn't have to get into their mindset. I wanted to stay in my mindset and give my version of Leon for this remake. If you think about it, I've played 4 and 6 quite a bit, and Leon at that point was already growing and maturing and evolving into the Leon we have today, before the remake came out. And so he was so different anyways. So we had to go back to the roots. The reason they cast maybe an unknown and a younger sounding voice is obviously because Leon is 21. He's a different character than people know from 4 and 6. So there's no point in asking what motivations maybe Matt Mercer had for Resident Evil 6 because that was Leon 20 years later. Um, as far as prep goes, I'm definitely a method actor, and the prep began the moment I got an audition notice. And right then, I knew I had to take this super seriously, so I started retraining with the weaponry, with the firearms. I started working out really hard because I knew Leon was really slim, and I wanted to lose about 10 pounds before my callback, my second audition. And so I didn't fast, but I went on a regimented diet and I was living in the gym. So physically, I wanted to show up to that audition the way that I thought Leon would be and move. And I was just myself. They said in this audition, you don't have to affect your voice, just be yourself, come in with your idea, your vision of a young Leon Kennedy. Fortunately, I knew his character very well, so I didn't have to research. And that's kind of what happened. When I booked the role, Capcom said, "We see that young spirit of a Leon Kennedy inside of you. You don't necessarily need to change anything. You don't need to make your voice sound younger. Just be yourself, and we'll work through the scenes. And we worked a lot with the director, Tom, and the writer, and we created the character together. It was a process, and the end result is the end result.
It speaks for itself. So I suppose they literally they didn't give you a placard, or they didn't give you a sheet of paper and said, right, this is the Leon we want you to be. They said, I'll tell you what, take the ball. Here's the Leon ball. Run with it. Give your best rendition of what you think the character is going to be.
That's kind of how it went. They knew I understood the character and the relationships, and we just worked out scene by scene. With what the director wanted to focus on, his main focus was that each scene felt as real and grounded in humanity as possible. He said, get past the fact that you're running from zombies. It doesn't happen in real life, but if it did, how would you naturally react? Don't think this is a video game. Don't think too much. Just say what's in your heart. If we change the script a little bit, so be it. And all three of us, the writer, the director, myself, and then the other cast members in the scenes, that's exactly what we did. And we took it day by day. And I think a lot of people will agree, this seems like a very grounded story for what it is.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, the characters, all of you guys seem so real in this, and I think this is a trend we're seeing in both in game and cinema now.
Definitely.
Going back to, I think I watched a documentary on this talking about Blade with Wesley Snipes, where up until that point, superhero movies, for the most part, they pick somebody that kind of looked like the comic book, but didn't really maybe fit the portrayal and the mindset. But when they came to make Blade, they built the character around Wesley Snipes, and the same with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Nobody, I catch myself sometimes calling, Junior, Tony Stark, just because, when you look at Iron Man, and you look at Robert Downey Jr., like they're almost indistinguishable because Tony Stark is Robert Downey Jr. And I think that was kind of the beauty of the remake was, like just being able to feel the emotion and feel like, hey, this is exactly how a real person would react. This is exactly what I expect. Like Leon was built on you to be the Leon that we have in the game, and I think that goes back to one of my, most real moments of the game was the first and only interaction with Robert Kendo with you and Ada.
Oh, my favorite scene right there.
That moment, playing the game for the first time, like not expecting, you always knew that Kendo was going to be there, but going completely in a different direction from the last time we saw Robert, 20 years ago was just an emotional scene, and beautifully done, beautifully acted. Like,
yeah. Ken Lally did a phenomenal job. That was the actor that Mo Captain voiced Kendo. Ken Lally is a fantastic actor, and like I said, that scene was just gut wrenching. And I remember when we were developing the game, we had already shot a bunch of scenes, and they were still working on creating that scene. They said, we really want to dive more into these side characters and give them more life. And they took their time writing that scene. We didn't start filming that right away. That was probably midway through. And when I saw the script for it, even the script didn't do the scene justice because they made it so emotional. And again, that's my favorite line in the whole game, I think, is when Kendo kneels down next to his daughter and he said, mommy's sleeping and I'm going to put you to bed too. Oh my God. That's just like, I got shivers just now, just saying that. It's just like, it almost brings like tears to my eyes. And again, that's their reality they tried to bring to the game.
Yeah. And it's just insane because Robert's on screen all of maybe a minute and a half. And, you don't know except for, older fans, you don't know who this guy is. Yeah. You just see this emotionally powerful scene, and it's almost like you didn't need to give Robert any more than that. Like it was like a whole character's life in a minute 30 on the screen.
Yeah.
Like you get so much emotion and so much of the who he is as a person with very little introduction to him as a person. I don't even think you catch his name. Yeah, that's right. You don't even catch his name in the game. So it's amazing. Just like I said, how powerful you guys were able to bring these characters to life. Like I said, it was absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thanks. That really means a lot. And you're right. That's the direction games are going in. They're not. A lot of them aren't over the top anymore. They just want them to feel like you're really immersed in something that you'd experience in real life, and that's what puts you right inside the scenarios.
And that is a testament. I suppose we can say that is a testament to Capcom's vision for the game. Because if you think, the original Resident Evil and how B-movie and cheesy that we all love, we all know and love, and we always go back to it. The whole Jill sandwich, the Master of Unlocking, and then they brought out the remake in 2002, and it was like, whoa, this has just become like the real deal. And it's a similar thing with Resident Evil 2. I mean, the original Resident Evil 2 was an absolute masterpiece. I think we can all say that, but it still has that B-movie charm. But I believe the Resident Evil 2 that you guys produced was just another level storytelling. Really grounded, really gritty. It was absolutely beautiful storytelling.
Well, let me tell you this, and I think a lot of people agree. If this is the new direction that Capcom's going to take these games and just really lean into this and these changes, then I, for one, am so happy, because this game, playing it just a week and a half ago, actually, no, let me rewind. I would say Resident Evil 7. A lot of people thought it was kind of weird and strange and different. Personally, I loved it. And that's because for the first time in quite a few years, maybe like a decade or over a decade, I felt fear in a Resident Evil game. I'm not saying I didn't have fun with the other ones. I loved the other ones. But 4 was the last time I got any kind of like thrill of horror out of it. And 7 was creepy as hell. They got back to the roots in that aspect. I thought it was a good story too. And they tried the VR thing. So yeah, it was different. It was an experiment, and it was a successful one. And now with this remake, now it was dark again. It was gritty, survival horror to the max. Story was great. Everything felt grounded. And now if they hopefully maybe remake 3, go on to 4, Resident Evil 8, who knows? Code Veronica. I think this direction is fantastic. And I think they have really figured themselves out of like their absolute new direction.
And I think that's a testament to Capcom as a company as well.
Sure.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, like when Resident Evil 6 came out, I was the first in line to buy it through all of my bitches and gripes about the game. Like I still enjoyed it. I mean, for what it is, knowing the characters, knowing, I've been with these guys since, I was a child. Like, it almost like, Capcom could honestly kind of do no wrong with Resident Evil. Like, obviously we can, point out that maybe 5 and 6 were some of the weaker titles in the series. At the end of the day, like, I still got to play as Chris. I still got to play as Leon. I got to meet a couple of new characters, so, but after 6 and the fans kind of feedback Capcom got, because if I'm not mistaken, 7 was supposedly going straight into production after Resident Evil 6 released. And due to, the fans' feedback where they're like, I don't know, sure if we're on board with this whole, action horror experience anymore. And Capcom's like, all right, you know what? Scrap this. We're going back to the drawing boards. And then, a couple of years later, Resident Evil 7 came out. And I agree 100%. Like, 7 was the first time that I felt fear, like you said, since 4. Yeah. 5 was essentially a reskin of 4. Different location, pretty much the same enemies, same plot, couple of little twists here and there. 6 took everything from 4 and 5 and gave you the ability to run and shoot and slide. So going back to 7, you're a guy, you start off with minimum supplies. The Baker family was absolutely genius.
You're back in a mansion. Like, it just felt old school in the greatest way. and the story was different. Like it really brought me back to the roots. It felt to me like I was inside of Resident Evil 1 playing in VR. And that's why I said this game, oh yeah, this is gonna be fun. And it was the anxiety was off the charts trying to evade Jack when you have like nothing to kill him with. Like that's just creepy because when you're wearing the VR, you are that guy. Jack isn't chasing your character, he's chasing you. So I thought it was masterful.
And
Oh,
they did, in a way, carry that back. We've seen it before with Tyrant, but they did kind of give that Baker-esque character back to the Tyrant. I thought the Tyrant was a lot more vicious in this game. He was a lot more. He had a lot more oomph about him. He wasn't. You couldn't put him down, which is one of the big things for me was you couldn't put him down. How did you prep yourself for the Tyrant? In terms of in terms of your act, in terms of being Leon, how did you prep yourself?
To be completely honest, there wasn't much in the filming process that involved Tyrant. I didn't do in-game movements. In motion capture, I filmed the cinematic breakaways, and I believe Leon only has one scene while he's getting choked out in the parking garage by him. We didn't have a Tyrant on set. No actor was playing him per se. We staged that, and I would pretend like I was getting choked. So we went through all the motions on a platform, and then I physically dropped and all that good stuff. When we did VO and ADR sessions, I'm not even sure we really talked about it that much. We talked about, now this is a scene where a big villain is coming after you. What would you say? Here, you need to say these lines, these lines, these lines. Say it in 3 different inflections. So you'd be like, damn it, damn it, damn it. It's just, we recorded so much, and then they just throw whatever they felt into the specific scenarios in the game. So I wasn't super involved with Tyrant filming that I knew of. Sorry if that kind of breaks your heart.
Oh no, I'm devastated. I'm absolutely devastated. Are you telling me you didn't have a 9'8" person in mocap, or maybe two people sitting on each other like they did in the old cartoons with a big trench coat on? Two guys sitting on each other's shoulders in mocap.
Unfortunately, it didn't happen. No.
No, that's great
Yeah,
stuff.
I knew he was going to look like. We had concept art of all the people we were going to fight and interact with. So I had an idea what he was going to look like. Of course, he was just going to be an updated version from the original. But like I said, I had way more interaction with, say, like all the G versions.
So I suppose that'd be a nice segue onto that. And what was your how was you prepping for the G fighting, William interactions with William?
Well, again, what we filmed in motion capture was my scene with Annette, where she shoots G. He goes down. He kind of like crumples. We talk a little bit, and then he gets back up and he kills Annette. We filmed all that, and we had a very intense actor there, TJ Rotolo. You're probably familiar with him. He played William Birkin, and then the G forms as well. And we just filmed it like he's larger than life. He's got a big personality, and he's very intense, which is great because it gives you a lot to play off of. And I just tried at that point to be aware of Leon's arc, and I had a little bit more sense of bravado of like, yeah, let's finish this. And that's it. We just went for it, and then the ADR lines came later for when the player's controlling Leon. He spits out a lot of things like shit. And it's just bringing that kind of intensity. It's bringing the energy. And hopefully Capcom would use the takes that you thought were appropriate, but that's up to them. That's completely their decision.
So Nick, what would you say is one of your your favorite moment during this whole experience? Obviously there's a lot of energy at the beginning of it. Finding out you got the role during filming. What would you say is that pivotal moment in this whole experience for you?
I would say the 2 biggest moments for me were the first day on set when I got the honor to meet the team from Japan, to meet actual representatives of Capcom, shake their hands or give a polite bow, and that was just like cloud nine for me. I was bursting with joy inside. I didn't want to show him too much excitement, but I remember that day. I'll remember it till the day I die. And then I would say the whole process of filming was just the best experience ever. But one of the more special um, days was when the trailer was released, and I didn't realize how that was going to affect me, and it just kind of made everything real. And it, even though I couldn't announce that I was in the game, it didn't matter because all of our hard work and everything we poured, all the love we poured into the game, we finally kind of saw the results and the reaction from the fans, which was just holy crap! It was off the charts, and I'll never forget that. So I'd say those are the two favorite days, even more than the release day.
So I suppose moving towards your response then, what was it like? So the trailer's been posted. At that point, did they actually announce that it was yourself? Because I remember seeing the trailer. Obviously, I don't remember catching if it was Nick Apostolides. It's going to be Leon. But
No.
what was it like seeing and hearing yourself over the internet at such a grand scale?
Surreal. Again, I'm still pinching myself, and it's not about the fame of it. It's just that the fact that the trailer and the hype was so big from the fan community, to me, that said, hey, you are a part of something that is huge and very much accepted by this very loyal community. You know, if the trailer came out and people were like, wow, that looks pretty awful, that would have crushed me. And it's not about my performance. I didn't care if they said, well, I like the older Leons better. Like, you know, I don't care about that. I just wanted this project to become somewhat of a modern day classic. That's all I wanted. And I was looking at a lot of fans' reactions and comments on YouTube videos. All I wanted to see was, holy crap, I can't freaking wait for this game to come out. And that's what I saw quite a bit of.
The game's out. It's been out for a while. You finally had your chance to play it. What would you say is your favorite moment from the game? I know, you know, we talked a little bit about the Kendo moment, but as far as gameplay goes, you know, what's your favorite part of the game so far?
I actually like the tension of Mr. X. I've read some comments of people saying, "Oh, he's so annoying. You know, I had to backtrack and go here and do this to get rid of him." I think that's the beauty of Resident Evil is just the anxiety when you play, right? That's why so many people fell in love with the franchise because you had to survive these crazy scenarios with like no bullets. You have nothing to put him down with. You don't know that if you open the next door, he's going to be standing right there and turn around and smash you in the face. Personally, I loved that chase. That's why I loved Nemesis so much when that came out, is because you never knew when he was going to pop around the corner or you hear that stars. You know, it's just, I like tension in video games. I like when they affect me. So I'd say Mr. X in general is my favorite part of the game.
And your favorite line?
That's a tough one. Well, actually, I already said it. Kind of Kendo's line from Ken Lally when he kneels down and says, "I had to put mommy to bed, and I'm going to put you to bed too." That just hit me so hard on an emotional level, and to me, that kind of wraps up what Resident Evil is all about. Is what's happening to the world around your character, and it felt so real to me.
Well, if I can interject, I would say, Nick, one of my favorite lines from you comes directly after the scene with Robert, where you're speaking with Ada about, you know, it's okay to lie to me, but, you know, you lie to them, you know, like that whole exchange between you and Ada, where you can tell, like, with Leon's character, like, shit just got real. Like, you don't know what's going on. People are dying. You're a rookie cop. Just the way that exchange goes, and both of y'all's inflections on how things are said, just it brought that scene even more to life. And like I said, it just felt like a real exchange that I would expect from somebody who cares. And like I said, I think that was beautifully done by you throughout the entire game. Is you can tell Leon cares. Like, it doesn't matter what mode he's in or what his objective is. Like, the at the end of the day, he cares. And like I said, I think that is more of your personality, it seems, shining through Leon, with just an amazing portrayal throughout the entire game.
Yeah, that was the director really wanted to focus on that with Leon. Each character had core characteristics and qualities. Leon, obviously, he's a very earnest person, right? He always wanted to do the right thing. He would have won, like, team spirit in high school. He's that type of guy, and then he brings that into his work to serve and protect. So, of course, I wanted that to bleed out of him. That very scene, I think they were saying that they said, Nick, this is an important transition scene. We want to see his arc start to change now. Right before that, walking through the parking garage, he's kind of still like, oh, who are you? Hey, yeah, we got to figure this out, huh? And then after that, he's like, okay, you know what? Let's get to the bottom of this. I know you're screwing with my head, but let's work together and just do this because I need to figure this out and save the day. But also, what Tom, the director, tried to do is he wanted to have us bring as much of our own personalities into these characters, because essentially that will make it feel more real for everybody in the delivery. And the thing is, I cared so much about this project and cared so much that I did his character justice that I just let that transfer over to his what's the word I'm looking for? Anyways, you know what I'm saying. It's I just transfer that over to what Leon wanted.
I suppose if I may interject, I know obviously we've heaped praise on Resident Evil 2. It's critically acclaimed now. It's been universally just accepted as a badass game. I suppose my critical hat is going to come on now. From your perspective, is there anything that you felt that Capcom could have done more with the characters? I know that seems like a bit of a brash question, but the reason why I'm saying that is I just felt Claire and Leon could have had a little bit more interaction. I just felt like we was reading a lot of notes, and obviously you played Leon to such a high standard, and Claire was equally played to a high standard.
She was great.
I would have liked to have seen more interaction between you two, a little bit more interaction between you two instead of notes. I mean, is there anything that you can say from the whole development process? I mean, acting, you probably, I can imagine you probably left it all on the table. You put it all out. You put it all out there. But is there anything you felt could have been maybe included in the game that wasn't?
I would really have to play it again. I know exactly what, and I understand why people would feel that they should have had more. I think one of the reasons why they didn't want a ton of interaction between us is because they really wanted to amp up the isolation factor. And so if your stories were always intertwining, you wouldn't feel so alone. Oh, Claire might be on this part of the mansion, or this part of the RPD station, or like you kind of got the feeling that you were kind of on your own. So I could see it both ways. And again, I'd have to return to that question. I'd have to play the game again, both campaigns. They were very different, each of them.
No, but that's brilliant. That's brilliant that you felt like they really went balls to the wall in this. They didn't leave anything. They didn't leave anything on the table. There's nothing that you could have foreseen. Like, oh, you know what? I really wish they would have developed this a bit more. They would have developed that. For me, I felt like, yeah, just that interaction with Claire and Leon. There could have been a few more lines in there, but I mean, you've given a justification of why they wanted to do that. I suppose it's a little bit tongue in cheek here. A little bit tongue in cheek here, Nick. But what do you think about Resident Evil 1.5? Do you think we'll ever see it? And if there needs any voice acting done, would you lend your voice to it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would love to be a part of anything that's Resident Evil. Do I think it's going to be made?
Or
I don't know.
released or unarchived from the infamous
really
Capcom archives?
I really have no idea. I haven't followed the news lately. I've seen a lot of posts like now that like RE2 remake is out. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation about 3 make and then Code Veronica and hey, what's happening with Resident Evil 8? So I don't know. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff. I don't really know. I wish I did. I wish I was on the inside track with Capcom, but I'm not. Believe it or not, I'm not.
You was our only source, Nick. You was our only source.
Yeah.
Nick, that actually brings up an interesting question I want to ask is, with you being a longtime fan of the series, if a 3 make was to be made, which would you be more excited for, Resident Evil 8 or a continuation of this kind of, taking a step back and reliving the classic?
Oh, both. I mean, anything Resident Evil, just give it to me now because, like I said, I think they finally refound their direction between 7 and this remake. I think they know. I don't think they got confused with 5 and 6. I just think they were just figuring out what people wanted, and I think they have figured that out. It's an extremely talented company. Okay, they know what they're doing, Capcom, and they're having a phenomenal 2 years. And I think they're going to ride this momentum. And if 8 comes out, I know it's going to be a killer game. And if 3 make comes out, that's going to be a killer game because it's going to be in the same vein as this one was. And who doesn't love the original 3? Like Nemesis was such a great game, and now if it just gets like a big facelift and a little redesigned story that's more grounded, holy crap! I played both of them.
Oh, absolutely. And and I guess in the same it would go for Code Veronica. I think the true Resident Evil 3 kind of gets overlooked a lot, but seeing all of these game styles come back and getting to relive them in a upscaled environment is just absolutely amazing. But as far as continuing on through the series, which would you rather see going on? Because once again, we had kind of a transition from Resident Evil 7 to remake for between a first person perspective and a third person perspective. What would you like to see the series continue as? Having played 1 and having been 1, what's your kind of thoughts on where you'd like to see the series continue as far as perspective?
Personally, I'm a huge fan of what they did with 2. I think that's the way to go. There were still parts of it that felt really claustrophobic. A lot of, got flack from they should bring back the tank controls and all that, and I get it. It's just in modern storytelling where games are today, I think they made the right decision. They gave you, I forget the wording they used. They gave you like structured over the shoulder. So this wasn't exactly the same as say RE4. This was different over the shoulder. The way the camera followed during certain parts. And when the zombies came in to bite you, the camera would dive right into like a close-up and get right up in there. And it felt like you were more involved. And I didn't feel so far removed, it being third person. Now, put it this way. If Nemesis came out, the remake, and let's say that was in VR with slightly better graphics than 7, and Nemesis chasing you around the city, holy crap, like that would be terrifying to experience that as yourself. It's a huger Jack with tentacles, with nasty teeth. And I don't know, but if they did like the same over the shoulder, I'd be happy with both 8 and 3.
That I hadn't even thought about that. Because obviously, with the over the third person perspective in 2, kind of felt more of a homage to the original. It wasn't fixed camera angles, but the third person camera itself was more fixed, to kind of almost give the illusion of the older style gameplay. Yeah, which is something obviously as a fan of the originals, I would love to see in 3, but that actually posed an interesting thing because I hadn't even thought about and it amazes me that I didn't think about the fact that Nemesis could chase you in VR, like just thinking,
Horrifying.
yeah, just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, that's it was a successful move to try that in VR for Resident Evil 7. A lot of people don't know that RE7 was the very first full game to be developed and released in VR. They had a crap load of demos, but RE7 they were pioneers in that aspect. So good for them.
Oh, absolutely, and I think that, and we actually just had an article come out on our website about this, about how 7 kind of re-revolutionized the survival horror genre. Just, I mean, everything in 7 was Capcom, kind of going back to the roots, with the claustrophobic mansion and bringing back a puzzle element, but also all of the banned footage and the DLC that came out with it. I mean, was essentially just Capcom getting like, "Hey guys, these are ideas we've been playing around with. Like, we want you to have fun with them," and and that's what I personally loved about 7 was just it was, like I said, it was a mix of going back to the roots of the series, but also testing the limits and showing the true potential of the RE engine, which we're seeing the after effects of now, which like I said, just makes me so excited for the future of the franchise. Like I know every franchise kind of falters or has its slow times, which we've had the past couple of years, but I think Capcom's back on track. It's like being in the 90s all over again. Capcom Capcom's back on top. Resident Evil's one of the best selling games of the year. So I'm super excited to see where the franchise goes from here.
Yeah, I think we'll at least be nominated for Game of the Year. That's just a huge feat. They won Best in Show at E3. Now, again, that's just a trailer, but if they get nominated for Game of the Year, that means they did a lot of things right, and they know they're on track.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so Nick, just we're gonna kind of segue towards the end of the podcast here. But after this whole experience with Resident Evil 2 and the success that it's had, what kind of doors have this opened up for you? You got any upcoming projects that you're at liberty to speak about?
I actually have a few things going on. I can't say much about them in the video game world. They're very strict with NDAs. It's absolutely opened up some doors. It helped me get a great agency for voiceover and motion capture. So I'm really looking forward to continuing this. It's good to have it on the resume just in general because everyone recognizes the name and it's been a successful game. And that's it. I mean, I'm looking forward to announcing some really cool things in the future for everybody. But until then, it's lips sealed.
Well, I mean, obviously, you can't tell us about Resident Evil 4 remake yet. We totally get it.
Okay.
But no. But on a more serious note, if Capcom approaches you, do you plan on if another either Resident Evil spinoff was to come out featuring Leon, or even potentially a remake of a later franchise game, are you planning on working with Capcom again if asked?
I'll tell you exactly what I would tell them. I would be honored.
Well, that's good to hear. Well, Nick, to wrap things up, you have any final words for everybody listening?
Floor is yours, my friend. If you've got any last words, any comments, anything you want to share with us, any little promotions you want to put in, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm just really appreciative that people have enjoyed the game and accepted me into the family of Resident Evil. I'm appreciative of outlets like you guys taking the interest to hear anything I have to say. It's just a really fun experience for me. It seems to be ongoing. And I say this in almost every interview. Without the fans and without the loyalty, these games would never happen. And the demand for the sequels would never happen. And in part, that's why I'm here even talking to you guys, is because you guys exist and you guys demanded these games. So kudos to everybody, and let's hope for more Resident Evil titles. That's all.
Absolutely. I mean, I like I said, I will constantly buy every port, every new release from the franchise. It's been a huge part of my life since I was little. So, I can't wait to see what the franchise does from here. And, if you continue to involve, we'd love to have you back, in any capacity, whether it's, voicing a new game or, just come by to hang out with us. But Nick, if anybody wants to follow you on social media, what venues should they look for you on, and what's your handles?
Oh yeah, this is a podcast. It's not video. I was gonna say, can you pop them in the corner? No, I'll spell them out if you like. So on Instagram, you can find me at just my first name, Nick _ Apos, APOS. And on Twitter, you can find me at NIK. I don't know why I spelled Nick that way, but I did. _ Apostolides. Nick Apostolides, that's my name. APOSTOLIDES. Yeah, that's Greek.
But anyways, Nick, thanks for joining us today. I had a lot of fun. Really enjoyed having you here. And like I said, we look forward to seeing you back again.
Yeah, it was fun, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks for your patience on this. I know it took a long time to get here, but it's all in fun, and we'll definitely be in touch. All right.
Indeed.
All right, sounds good.
And just on a side note from me, Nick, obviously this is for me an absolute privilege, and the fact that you've taken the time out of your no doubt very busy schedule to chat with the Biohazard Declassified team, it means a lot. It really, I mean, if you told me at the start of this year I'd be playing Resident Evil 2 Remake, I'd probably be losing my mind. But the fact I'm speaking with the man himself, Leon S. Kennedy, Nick, we really appreciate your time, and thank you for making the time for us.
My pleasure, and I'm just a fan like you guys. That's all. I just got a lucky opportunity.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, Nick, and for everybody listening, we'll catch you guys next time.